to the Bean Down Podcast. Bean Down Podcast.
Welcome to the B Sound Podcast. Today, my guest is Henry Forshaw, and Henry is the author of a book called The Tragedy of Being Good. How are you doing today, Henry?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Would you mind explaining to our audience who you are?
So I'm a recovering depressed person, loser, piece of shit, scumbag, whatever you want to call me. I feel like it reduces the stigma to just sort of cope myself in the crap that I've stuck myself to. I've hooked myself into this and taken the identity on. So by saying that's how I feel, I just feel like it loosens the grip. And so I'm on this self-respect journey to reclaim my power, to learn how I can go from being a boy to a man at 30, very late. But I think many people go through their whole life, sometimes substance abuse, etc. I mean, like, what's a 40-year-old doing still addicted to something? Like, you can't really call them a man. So I feel like I'm doing well. All things considered, I'm doing well.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're just owning some of your own, like things that you don't necessarily want to be. You're owning that. You're owning that you have things, the growth that you want to have.
I feel like that's the crux of actually changing it, is in the not being afraid to own that for the time period that it takes to loosen it up. I think that's what I've been missing.
I see. So is that what led to writing your book? What led to that?
My book started with realizing the nurturing side. So there's the mother and the father of our self-parenting. And I realized that I was being too hard on myself in a way. In my perspective on life was very moralistic, very religious. And so I was trying to become Superman overnight and not accepting that I was in the shit. So now I'm accepting that I'm in the shit. And before, when I started writing the book, I wasn't accepting that. So the book was my journey to saying, well, it's okay to have all of this, to have this issue.
Okay.
So it didn't resolve the issue, but it just at least got me to that point.
Okay. So the way I understand it is the book kind of at least is the start of you addressing your own issues.
I think I started even when I was forced to face my dad and tell him that I was being bullied at school. He found a note that I'd written about two of the kids who were bullying me. I don't know if I wrote in that I was feeling suicidal. Maybe I did. But I was at just absolute rock bottom. But by having the fact that my dad found this note and having to face the teacher who I was going to give it to, and that was maybe the start of facing the emotional situation. But that's way back when I was like 13.
Sure. So yeah, it sounds like you so that was the crux of it then. Like that was like you deciding I need to address this at that point.
I never The problem is that because I was still deeply moralistic, I kept trying to be good enough. So my book's called The Tragedy of Being Good, because being good does just enslaves you into being bad, actually.
I could see that. I could see where you're coming from there. Well, being good for others, maybe.
It's the lack of clarity on what good actually is, and it's having a self-righteous energy. If you've got this energy of I do X, Y, Z, and if I do X, Y, Z, then I'm okay. It absolves me of my sin if I do X, Y, Z. So there's this whole, I believe there's a whole class of people who think that they fulfill the quota, and if they fulfill the quota, they're unaccountable for everything else. So they say, I can drive my 4x4 and have no guilt about the damage that I do to the environment because I love my neighbor and blah, 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 blah. But like the 10 Commandments, they fulfill a list.
It's kind of like saying a prayer or something or a Hail Marys or whatever you want to,
Yeah, I was still trying to meet that list. And throughout so it was when I recognized that I didn't need to fulfill that list anymore, that was probably like a real big turning point.
Yeah. I hear that a lot, actually.
Big weight off my back.
Yeah. Well, tell me about that. The big weight off your back, is that like because you're not trying to be good for others? Is that the weight that's off?
I feel like it boils partly down to when you're a child and your dad says, you need to do this with me, and you say no, and you say, fuck you, no, I'm not doing it, because I don't want to, because I have my own will. Fuck you, I have my own will. It's like the reclaiming of that it's okay even to do the wrong thing, because you need to have a will. You just need to do what you want to do and be who you want to be. At the heart of it, you have to make your own mistakes.
Mm-hmm. So is that kind of what you're doing with so like this show is like about creative people, and you've done some creative things, writing a book, and you're doing TikTok. So is that what your TikTok journey is about?
So I want to take you back in time again to back in 2012, 2013. I was, when I was bullied at school, I was called foreskin by about 60 kids, 100 kids. And I created this YouTube channel. I'd given myself the permission to spend some money and travel Europe and try and do what I'm doing now. And I called it Get Spunky because subconsciously, because I was trying to address the stigma of being called foreskin. I was trying to address like the absolute shame and trying to rub that shit all over myself to, like a cleansing that I wasn't able to do. I wasn't able to do it then because I didn't have the mentoring and I didn't have that I've had from Kip now. I didn't have I just didn't have I wasn't over the trying to be good enough shit. So I would have ended up saying, oh, this isn't quite good enough. I need to adjust this video a little bit more and blah, blah, blah. And this is the beauty of TikTok. This is the revolution of TikTok, and is that now I've got a 64 gigabyte card in my phone, and it's recording a really good quality image. And I've got the editing software that costs nothing, and it's just all at my fingertips. So I can get myself out there and lose that inhibition that I had. Sure. I just had too much inhibition, and now I'm 30 and I've got so much more resources available. So that was the process to getting to where I am. And so I was looking to create psychology and spirituality, a lot in my head and a lot in my book and my theories. But Kip found me. Kip's coach on being a warrior, being authentic and speaking your truth. And he's helped me to stop kidding and stop pretending and playing. And so I'm now this position where it's become maybe untenuous to call what I'm doing spirituality and psychology. And now maybe what I'm doing is trying to bring people like me who have no power or had no power to having some power and doing something about it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think there's psychology and spirituality still within that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. Speaking of Kip, one of the questions I ask on this all the time is, mentors you've had along the way. What do you think? Do you think that having a mentor is important?
I think that without Kip, I could be still in the same place, not very much further along my journey. So it's like it's not even the same path. It's moving into a parallel path that I didn't realize existed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's great about Kip is he can really kind of show you some other paths that you wouldn't even know about. And it really kind of opens your eyes to there's a lot more in the world than what your little box is,
As I was saying earlier, the mothering energy, the nurturing I needed, I don't even know where I went with that, but I didn't finish my thought.
Oh, yes.
The nurturing energy is what I was developing a lot in my book and my writing, and I needed that to let go of the moralizing, self-righteous crap. But then I missed out on I missed out on holding myself accountable, being responsible, and fighting for my life, which kept showing me that I can't carry on like this. It's just not. It's not tenable. I can't carry on holding so much pain and saying, well, maybe I'll find a solution. Maybe I'll find an answer tomorrow. I have to take this path that hurts and is difficult and uncomfortable now. And the path has appeared before me, and only because Kip's been able to show me that path existed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the value of having a mentor. You can be completely blind and they can bring a light in the fog and you can see.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with you there. It's so funny about that discomfort thing. I talk about that a lot because that's something in my younger years, I always avoided discomfort. And I think that it's right there in front of our eyes. Every story you see on, heroic stories and things like that, they're facing discomfort all the time and stuff. And for some reason, a lot of younger people avoid it. They avoid discomfort at all costs. And it's really important to realize that that's where your whole life is within the discomfort that you can handle. And that's where you're going to become more of who you really are, I think.
Yeah.
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 Do you have any, what's been like a big hurdle that you've gotten over, like something that's, like the biggest hurdle you've had, and what did you do to overcome it?
That's a difficult one.
It is, yeah.
I feel like this is my biggest hurdle, is in going from a self-fulfilling prophecy that says that it's not going to work out to a self-fulfilling prophecy that says it is going to work out, and not kidding, not pretending, and that it is, not getting tricked, being self-aware enough to see, to know that it's genuine, and to take that path.
How do you know it's genuine? I'm curious.
I think it's really difficult, and the proof is in the pudding. If there's a result, there's something genuine about it. So it's an experience-based thing.
Yeah.
But you have to give it a shot. If you don't give it a shot, then you've not got the data.
Right. Well, there is definitely something to be said about the vulnerability you have of giving something a shot. That's always going to be genuine.
Going up and doing karaoke was pretty hard for me. And so Kip said, I've got to face what I'm afraid of. Mm-hmm. And there was so much proof in the pudding there, because it was clear that my idea of how it was going to turn out was so inaccurate, and my view of myself and my capabilities was completely inaccurate. Mm-hmm. So it was like tearing away a whole load of paper wrapping, and there's still a lot more to peel off, and I'm having a go at that.
Yeah.
Not quite fast enough, but it's happening.
Yeah, it sure seems like it. I remember seeing your karaoke TikToks, which they were fun to watch, because you could tell you did feel something there. You had a little change there, a little shift. At least I thought so. Even
just the adrenaline is a big jump. Even just the adrenaline wakes you up. But there's a big shift in my mood from before and after going and doing karaoke, and shift in my experience of life, of who I am and where I am and what's going on.
Right. So you think
it's a miraculous transformation?
Yeah, I would think so. I've had similar things that I would consider miraculous transformation as well. But so you would think like the idea would be just face those fears as often as possible then.
Yes.
Yeah. Easier said than done, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like that I don't know, before talking to you, I was thinking, do I go down to town and get something, and I'm gonna have enough time to deal with it and cook some chicken basically, and I'm like, so Kip's like, do everything right now, but there's the reality of keeping to your appointments, and then if I take on too much in too little time, I'm gonna end up just burning something.
Yeah, I get you there. You gotta look at reality, but at the same time, you can get caught up in not taking any action at all because you're too worried about. So you have to really be aware of that. And it's better to take action than to not. So
yeah, it's better to screw up and then look at it and say, well, actually, it's not that bad.
Right. Yeah, that's key. That's key, is being not afraid to make mistakes. And obviously you don't want to make them, but if you make them, learn from them, and know that that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to like the things that you're doing on TikTok, or the things that you're doing, are you writing another book or anything like that?
Given the experience of Kip sort of pulling apart my sort of the conclusions that I was drawing from my first book, I feel like maybe I need a break from theorizing things too much. my goal at the moment is to make much more progress with transforming myself. I find some people who genuinely want to do it with me and find some success there. But my long-term goal is to eventually be able to walk down the street singing a cappella and making up lyrics as I go along, because my sort of something that's inside of me is I really enjoy singing, and I really enjoy the feeling of improvising and being able to get out there stuff that's even subconscious, because the words just come together without even thinking about it. Maybe there's some other value there other than just entertainment. Maybe there's some psychotherapeutic value, I don't know, for other people even.
Sure. I would think so. I mean, I'm a musician, by trade. And yeah, that's a lot of what I write is done that way. I'll just sing a cappella into a recorder and be like, okay, so this is what I'm kind of singing about, and kind of pull from that. And that's how I write songs. Right?
Yeah.
I kind of find the story within what I sang, just subconsciously. So there's something to that, I think. And so my question to you is, why aren't you doing that? Like, what's stopping you?
It's scary. Like, I want to sing some songs I wrote on guitar. Don't have guitar here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to sing them a cappella and put them on TikTok. But it's just like, you can hear the dogs here several streets away.
Yeah.
If I sing on the top of my voice, I think the shops are going to hear me just down the road. And I'm just going to feel like, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to get it quite in tune straight away. And then once I got it in tune, it's going to be like, I don't know, I just need to face the fear.
I think so. It sounds like you do, because it's like, I mean, we were just talking about this where it's, that holds you back if you're not taking any action.
Sorry about the dogs.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I have dogs too. They're just being quiet right now. The funny thing is, if you were to do a TikTok where you're singing and the dogs join in and stuff, that would probably even go more viral, because people love that kind of stuff where,
maybe.
it's impromptu. It's like you don't know what's coming. So
I think one thing that I could do next maybe is to try and record some videos talking with people that I know here, just to prove that the worst case scenario that's in my mind is just doesn't exist. It's just pure fear and anxiety, and that's how this illusion goes.
Yeah.
I need to do some more things that push that.
Yeah, well, fear, man, I've been fighting fear ever since I can remember. I have like notebooks from when I was like 10 years old writing like, I can't stand fear, because I always knew it was the enemy, but it will lie to you over and over again. It will lie to you. I mean, once in a great while, it'll tell you a little bit of truth, but it's never as bad as it's telling you it is. Do you know what I mean?
It's all based on the worst things that have ever happened to you.
Yeah. And it not only is it based on the worst things that ever happened to you, but then it amplifies it like 10 times. So it's not even, it's just not even real.
Well, it's the fear that happened when those really bad things happened. So the fear that happened when those really bad things happened was, could it go worse? Could it go much worse?
Right. And the memory builds that up. So, yeah, it's interesting to think about all the fears and stuff. And I know you're into like the psychology stuff. So especially when you were younger, like that stuff really hits home a lot. And that's where all this comes from, really.
When I went on the bus to get my hair cut, because I've always had an issue with my hair. I used to have really, really long hair at school, because I was just avoiding facing the fear of it turning out crap. And when I was going to get my hair cut in this hairstyle that I've got, the anxiety that I was feeling was just like, can I take much more of this on my heart stuff? Like, if I follow Kip's process and I go down this road that he's telling me to go on, am I going to end up with serious health problems? It's like, well, actually, I'm going to end up with much, much worse problems if I don't face my fear. In my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's like fear just telling you lies, just trying to get you to listen to it. You know, oh, if you do this, your heart's going to explode or something like that. It always does that. It's so interesting. So interesting. And I still fall for it sometimes. So it's not like you can become, you're always going to be maybe slightly susceptible to it, I think. But a lot of people are.
One question I was thinking about is, well, so what happens when I can acapella down the street? What happens when I can acapella in front of a live audience and improvise? What happens when I can take that to a bigger level? And then what? And then what? And then what? And it's like, so then how do I get vulnerable on TikTok when I've got that good? And I'm like, well, you're not there yet, Henry.
Yeah, it's a good point. That's a very good point.
It would be nice if I got there. Then I don't need a TikTok audience to become successful, because I could just freaking blaze it. You know?
Right. I believe they call that putting the cart before the horse, right?
Yes.
That's funny. All right, here's a question that I like to ask people is, so is there something that you can tell people at home, something you wish you had known when you first started out?
Find a mentor thing.
Find a mentor, yeah.
But if it's just sort of information that I was able to mine over hours and hours and hours of pain, it's just that the destigmatize the shame and remove the blame, because the blame the blame holding all of that blame is like carrying a big weight that needs to be paid, and it just you can't pay the debt for this.
Yeah.
The debt is too big.
Right. So this brings me to an interesting point then. So on your TikToks now, you're going through this like self journey where you seem to be blaming yourself a lot. And I'm just curious, is like, don't you want to let go of that blame kind of?
Yeah, it sounds contradictory, doesn't it?
A little bit.
But it's
because I think there's a difference between blame and self-responsibility, right?
So the blame is about a terrible crime that you didn't commit. So I write in my book about how you blame yourself. You've taken the blame for a crime that you didn't commit, and leaving your shit on the floor or on the table, that is a crime that you did commit. It's taking responsibility for something that you did do that you perfectly well didn't have to do, and that actually ended up just harming you. Didn't harm anyone else really. It just ended up harming you, and it's not like, at a certain point, you have to say, well, hey, I'm capable of doing differently. And if you say I'm not capable of doing differently, then you're not to blame. If you say you are capable of doing differently, then you are to blame. And then, so the responsibility is only when you feel confident enough to say, well, I did it. I'm guilty.
Okay.
So I was going around for a really long time because the shame was so strong. I needed to give that to someone else. I needed to say fuck you to someone else. I was just too. I go back to the frame for a crime you didn't commit. It's like taking responsibility for a genocide. You never did a genocide, but you're taking responsibility for one. So there's no frigging way you're ever gonna be able to take responsibility if you're blaming yourself for more than you actually have done.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. You don't want to put. It's self-responsibility. You don't want to take on somebody else's, problems. I mean, you can take on other people's problems, but I'm talking about when it comes to self-responsibility.
I think this is very true. Like for people who end up feeling guilty that a loved one died, and they feel like it's their fault, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is across the board and all sorts of things that make people depressed and that they end up blaming themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can't move on until they're no longer at fault for that one thing. But then when they're no longer at fault for that one thing, there comes a point where there has to be, well, I am at fault for some other things.
Right. It makes me wonder, this is maybe a little bit of an aside, but we talked about it a little earlier, like the warrior mindset. Do you think this is part of that, a warrior mindset? Or what do you think of the warrior mindset even?
Chapel perilous, where you realize effectively your life is crap. You may as well die. And so, and doing what you're scared of is gonna kill you. And so in that, you would rather die than doing what you're scared of. So basically you're not doing anything and you're dying anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're living in that sort of suicidal place, that's not actionable suicidal, but might as well be suicidal, then you're backed into a corner and you may as well fight your way out. And so the warrior mindset of dogs. There is no other way other than to fight out this. There's no way out. This corner is completely. It's either die or fight.
Right, and so the warrior mindset is like, let's fight.
Yeah, but there's no other mindset. Effectively.
Yeah, the other mindset is lay there and die, I guess, but it's not a really good one. Let's get back to your book, The Tragedy of Being Good. Do you still agree with what you wrote in it? Because it sounds like you didn't. Like it sounds like you're past that. Like it's chapter 1 or something of your life, kind of thing.
I'm not 100% sure. Like I haven't reread it for a long while now.
Okay.
I think, I don't know. I think that I was being too nurturing, and I was labeling what I'm talking about now as victim denial. So I was labeling being a warrior and saying, well, shut up and stand up and be a man, I was labeling that as pretending like nothing had happened. When actually the reality is that taking responsibility doesn't necessarily mean it's like I'm painting it black and white when it's not black and white. I'm leaning. It's like I was trying to address the feeling of not being good enough by reducing the shame down.
Oh.
But the feeling's there, and so in these videos that I've been doing recently, I've been defending myself against a lot of women who are saying, be kind to yourself. And I'm like, well, actually, I need to be less kind to myself, ironically, in this situation.
Yeah, I'm not sure I get that still. Like, why you're being not so kind to yourself, but it seems like you're on some kind of journey that, I don't know. To me, it seems like maybe you're on chapter 1 of your journey here of like the story's going to grow, like is what I kind of thought when I saw your TikToks of you being unkind to yourself and just kind of berating. I thought, oh, well, maybe it's going to grow into further parts of the journey. And I think that's your hope.
I'm aware that I'm being an arsehole to myself and to other people by just shitting everything, like just fucking everything up by. It's like I made a video today that I had a bit of pineapple on the floor, and so I made this video saying, I'm walking around this bit of pineapple on the floor, and every time I look at it, I'm like, I'll do it later. I've walked past it like 3 or 4 times now, so I'm clobbering myself to death. I'm stabbing myself to death. Like I know that deep down, I know the truth of who I am. I've always known the truth of who I am. But I also think I'm a piece of shit. And so it's like there's contradictory views, and it helps to, I don't know, it's helping to go there. I don't want to say I'm shaming myself, because I'm not shaming myself. I'm just saying you can do better.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying you can do better. I was curious about where you come up with your ideas for your TikTok.
It's just where I'm at the moment with moving through all of this.
I mean, you were talking about the pineapple video, so you're just in the middle of it and you're like, hey, this would make a good video, and you shoot it right then and there. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just make up as I go along.
Yeah. I think
no script.
Yeah, that's pretty good, I think. I think that's a good idea to just take action on that. Because I'll think about it. With TikToks, I'll be like, oh, what do I want to talk about today? And I'll really think about it and then be like, okay, I know what I want to talk about. And then I'll do it. No script or anything, but it's thought out a little bit. But I feel like that's maybe a better approach is what you're doing, and just do it when it comes to you.
Yeah, there's pros and cons. But there's a lot of pros and cons, and then there's things like adding a video on a video and using images, and so you can create that little video. The problem with TikTok is you might do a 15-second video and you can't move it into a 60-second video without saving it on your device, and then if you want TikTok to think it hasn't been posted before, you have to remove the watermarks and all this crap. It's like, fuck you, TikTok. Make it easy for me, motherfuckers.
Yeah, TikTok can be. Yeah, I hear you. It's I actually stopped using the TikTok editor, and I just film my TikTok on my phone and then edit it on my PC.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it
can be really frustrating.
It is. I've definitely said fuck you to TikTok a few times. I've even had videos saying don't make TikToks anymore and stuff like that. But yeah. So we're getting close to the end of time here. One question I ask everybody is this is kind of the closing question. Is there anything that I should have asked you today but did not?
I'm just so glad that I have got to where I'm at and found Kip, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you feel the same way, that you find what he said really helped you out. And I just feel like there's finally an actual way. There's finally a way.
Yeah.
I've been kidding myself with lots of different things being a way, but as we said, there's some evidence to this one.
Right. I would agree. There's some evidence to this one. I don't necessarily know if Kip has all the answers, but he has a lot of good ones. Finally, where can people find you online?
I'd like people to find me on TikTok and follow my self respect journey, and pick up how to get more respect. I'm not sure how useful my book is anymore. I feel like it's useful for understanding shame.
Okay.
And if you're at a point where you feel like an absolute, like, if you feel that you're really bad and you feel like other people are bad and they're good and I wish I was like them and I need to just be a better person, then this book will really help. But otherwise, if you're not of that moralistic sort of mindset, then it's of limited use.
Okay. Well, I'll leave links to both those things in the description here. So, all right, Henry. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks. And you have a good day.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.